All right. Yeah, nice to meet you. So how's your day going?
Good. It's been pretty crazy, man. I are we already recording? So I can tell you about my crazy.
Yeah, tell me about it.
No, I had an Instagram video that did really good, and so it's just been really wild. The last few days, the last week, it's just been crazy.
That's great.
It's
So, well,
great.
so what's happening with that?
Um, I mean, just like, just getting a lot of calls, a lot of leads, people calling, people wanting more information, and then having to explain the whole thing over and over. It was like a ladybird deed video, and it did better than any other video I've done. I've been doing videos for about 3 years, like shorts and reels and whatnot. And so it's did better than anything I've done before. And so it's gained a lot of traction. So it's good. It's a good thing, but exhausting.
Yeah. I think Ashley started doing TikToks. It was about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. She's my wife.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, she started doing them about a year ago, and I think she went viral on. I think it was a Ladybird Deed video as well. They're like people just eat them up.
So I haven't been doing as well on TikTok. And I read one of your posts where you talked about that you have it on personal, that you and her have it on personal.
Yeah.
And I had it on business. And so somebody else had told me also, yeah, I don't know if you should do it on business. I think you should do it on personal. And I was like, yeah, I have it already like this. And then I saw your thing and I was like, okay, let me just change it because clearly it's not working. So I
Yeah,
just changed it last week.
I've heard that the business one is good if you're running ads, if you're paying for it.
Yeah, no, I haven't been.
No, and we don't pay for any of that either. Yeah, it's kind of like I think it's like similar to Facebook when you're promoting your business. If you like post on a Facebook on your like Facebook business page, it's like you'll get like 3 views. It's like, what the hell is this? And then you post the same thing on your personal. It's like a shit ton of people read it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm assuming it's probably similar in that sense, but I don't know. Uh, yeah.
It's I'm trying to work up on the TikTok, and I see like I looked at Ashley's page. I don't do all of my social media myself. Like I have somebody that just tells me, come here, say this, let's do that. And I told her, I was like, you need to look at her page. Her page is killing it on TikTok. Like we need to figure this
What's what do you think is different?
out. In what she does versus what I do.
Yeah.
So on TikTok, what I was doing is I was just posting it all across the channels. Like the same content that I post on Instagram is being posted on Facebook, is being posted on TikTok, is being posted on YouTube. And I think that the content, I couldn't find your Instagram. I couldn't find your wife's Instagram. So I don't know if you guys post on Instagram as well. But what I noticed on TikTok is that it's very like all of the posts look the same, where it's like her headshot in a like supernatural way. And so my stuff is a little bit more organized, like, not that it's a production, but it doesn't seem as maybe authentic on TikTok. And I think that that's where, and I noticed other people. So like I looked at that guy, Joe, is it Joe Monterello, or I don't know what his name is.
Yeah, Michelangelo Mortellero.
Okay, that guy. Okay,
Yeah.
you had talked about him, and he comes up on my TikTok too. So I looked at his, and his looks very similar to yours in like the formatting, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's where mine is not like that.
Yeah. How
So,
long does it take you to film a video?
oh no, it's really quick. Like I do one day, 2 hours, and we film like for 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
But I mean, not that I'm natural at it, but I think it comes easy. So she'll tell me, okay, today let's talk about ladybird deeds. And I mean, I clearly know, what that is. And so it's easy for me to talk about it. Or I'll be like, oh, let me refresh. Sometimes we do it in Spanish because I'm in Miami. And so there's a Spanish speaking community here that's underserved. And so I do that. And that's a little bit more difficult. That takes me a little bit more time. It's not my first language. So I'm like, oh, crap, how do I say that? And then I'm like, I mess it up, so we have to re-record, refilm. But if I'm talking English, which is my first language, I'm good. You know, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
initially, yeah.
She just shoots like one video a day at the end of the day, like 5:30, 6 o'clock. Just sets up a little thing on her desk and just puts this small little light
Right.
and just
I have a light. I just don't have it turned on. Back there somewhere.
um
But hers looks super natural. It looks great.
yeah, we got that from Michelangelo. He was kind of our inspiration behind doing it in the first place. You know, he mentored us a little bit. We met with him a couple of times, and this guy is just freaking killing it over
I
there.
saw in one of your posts that you said that he was killing it and what his numbers were. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing something wrong. Like I am doing, and then, you know, what I love about your post and that you guys are so candid about it, right? That it's like, hey, this is where we're at, no BS. And you're like, oh crap, like if they're doing it, I can do it, you know. And if this guy Michelangelo's doing it and his stuff, I mean, sometimes looks like he's like at a baseball field, like just random places, and you're like,
The wind is blowing.
yeah,
It's like hard to hear.
yeah, but I mean, people eat it up. So I'm like, okay, well, if you know, not reinventing the wheel, but you know, following what people have done.
Yeah, I think yeah, and this is just my opinion that people are more drawn to the authenticity of like who you are. It's like if you screw up in a video, it's like you start stumbling your words, like that's probably even better than
Yeah.
you know having it all segmented out. We used to do transcribe. We used to teleprompter videos.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But you can tell because I've seen other attorneys you can tell that they're telepromptering it.
Yeah.
Just
If you're
looks like
not
reading.
Yeah, if you're not like a freaking actor, if you haven't like, if
Yeah.
you're not like a professional, you're going to sound like a jackass reading off of the teleprompter. And it sounds, people are like, scroll next, right? They forget about you. Yeah, but the authenticity has been really key for us. Yeah. And then Michelangelo, yeah, we met with him a little while ago. I forget how he came across our plate. I think it was maybe before we were doing Medicaid. We because he was doing Medicaid planning. I think we ran into a couple people that needed it, and somehow, oh, I know how now. It was an old attorney, an attorney that we had for like 6 months or something. She knew him, and she just like put him into our referral list, and we never even like he was just in there. And then someone came and was like, "Hey, I need to get approved for Medicaid. I need like a qualified income trust or something like that." And we're like, "Who does it?" And we looked at, and oh, who's this guy? And we just reached out to him, and he was awesome. And we went over there. We watched one of his seminars. He met with us for several hours, and the guy just told us everything that he's doing. That was successful, that was unsuccessful, and we implemented a lot of it. And TikTok was the big thing. I mean, he said that he's bringing in, this was last year, so 23, that he was going to bring in 2 million in revenue just from TikTok. Wild, right? But he definitely has the system set up to be able to handle it. And so we were like, okay, let's start. What do we need to do to kind of just duplicate? And he was like, hey, watch a video of mine and do the same thing, right? Do the same topic, right? Do the same subject. And we did for a few. And yeah, then we got a couple of videos went viral, and we had to kind of figure out, okay, how were we going to capture the leads? Like, how are we going to get business from it?
Right.
And one of the things I noticed, I looked at your TikTok briefly. I only watched a few videos because I don't know Spanish, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm watching, but they look really good. They look really good. I noticed that you have a Linktree link on your Instagram that goes to your consults.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not on your TikTok. Your TikTok one goes right back to your Instagram.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and they're
So
probably
I
the
have to
same
fix that.
videos, right?
Yeah. They are. Like
Yeah.
in the new year, I was planning on trying to see if I did them as different, but it's so much work. I don't know if
No,
that's a
don't.
realistic goal, you know.
Stupid. Don't do that. It's too much. Yeah. But that link tree, having it on both of them is smart, because then anyone can like find out where to book you for a consult. Because if right now they're on TikTok, they click on that link, it just brings them to Instagram, which is the same video. It's kind of like, what are
Yeah,
they doing?
right.
Yeah, I would just make that quick switch. Yeah. Anyway, so you said you had some questions about
Yeah,
marketing and stuff. Yeah,
I
tell
do.
me.
I do. Hold on. I have a little list here. Like,
Good.
all right. So when you talk about like marketing, and what is your budget? Like, is it a percentage? Because I talk to some people and they tell me, maybe it should be about 10% of your revenue. What is your budget? Because it seems like you guys have a really high budget. And so where
Yeah.
are you at in terms of that? And I guess you incrementally increased over time.
Yeah. So we started out at 25% of our revenue
Okay. Oh,
was
so you're pretty
out.
high.
Yeah. We're down right now to around 21, 22%. The goal is to get it down to 14%. That's the goal. Now it'll never go below 14%. We'll never go less than that. That's like really ideal. That's if we're bringing in most likely like 20 million in a year, right? We'll be down at that percentage. But yeah, right now we're around 21, 22% of every dollar that comes in goes towards, that percentage goes towards marketing.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know that you do several forms of marketing, right? I know that you
Yep.
do the postcards. And so I guess it's going good for you, right? Because I think you're at the point where you guys are ordering a crazy amount of postcards.
Yeah.
I did reach out to the Postcard Mania, and I have a quote from them. It's a little bit of a shell shocker, right? Like, I'm like, oh
It
my
is.
gosh, like, is this for real? Like, initially, I was like, it's like $3,000 a month, and that's like for 5,000 postcards or something. I don't know. I have the quote
Like a
there.
small amount, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, is it really gonna work, or is it gonna
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. I understand.
like? How did
There's
you
a,
feel making that plunge? Like, I don't know.
yeah. Well, I worked for Postcard Mania.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we moved to Florida in July 2019. I ended up getting, Ashley, was studying for the Florida bar during that time. She was licensed in Pennsylvania, but she needed to take the Florida bar. So
Okay.
from November until March, she studied for the bar pretty much full time. In January of 2020, they recruited me to come work there. I was going to be an executive, but I was going to learn the business. I didn't really know anything about their business, so I was going to do sales for a year to really learn it.
Okay.
So that's what I did. From January until December, I was essentially a sales rep, and spoke to tons and tons of people, new prospects and current clients, and I really learned what sales was. I thought I was good at sales before. Like, I had run a sales team out in California. I was in real estate for several years. I thought I knew what sales was. I didn't know shit about sales, to tell you the truth. It was a very humbling experience working for them, but like, so valuable. We can talk about that a little bit more, but it's
That's also on
really,
my list. It's on my
yeah,
list.
it's really translated over here. Now, during my time at Postcard Mania, I would see campaigns that didn't work, and I would see campaigns that did work. And the ones that did work were mailing in higher quantities, and they were consistent. Um, I didn't really know it at the time. I mean, Joy, who's the CEO there, she really preaches like having a good design for your postcard. Um, I didn't work on that end. I'd sell the campaign, and then it would get pushed over to the production team, and they would do the design and all that. So I didn't really know the value of it until later. But the design is super, super important as well. I have seen some really terrible postcard designs. She's got a whole book on it, but she's got an article you can find just on her website, like the elements of a successful postcard design. And so I created our design. We've had, I think, 3 or 4 different ones. We first did business law, then we did a postcard for trademarks, then we did one for employee handbooks, and then we started doing estate planning. And then I created that one, and that one was successful, right? I don't know if have you seen it?
Your postcard, your
Yeah.
design? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, I'm on Canva working on like a very similar. I'm like, change picture, add my picture. Like,
do the same thing. Take a picture on a couch in the same stance that she has. Like, do the exact same shit. And use the same words on the front and back of it.
No, I'm like, this clearly it's working for them. So
yeah, we're totally fine with anyone copying us. So yeah, the main thing I recognized, was that quantity and consistency, repetition was really needed. I remember when I was a real estate agent out in California, my partner and I, we were like, hey, let's do some farming. Farming is basically you just market, you just mail to a geographic area.
Right.
And we were like, how many are we going to send? And we calculated, we looked at the MLS, we got the houses in this one neighborhood, and there was like 375 houses. And we're like, Jesus, that's too much. Let's do 250. And we're like, okay, let's do 200. And so we mailed like 3 times. We got nothing from it. And I was like, God damn, postcards don't work. And then I remember this one client I had while I was at Postcard Mania. She was turned over to me. She was a realtor. She had a big team. They were mailing 10,000 postcards a month to the same houses, and they've been doing it for years. And she said that they, on average, get 10 listings a month from their postcards. And I was like, I started doing the math on it. I was like, Jesus Christ, she's out in California. Prices are high. She's making bank, right? So I think when you start talking about, is it worth it? We're on the higher end. Our estate plans, we charge, $6,550 for a joint plan, $5,500 for an individual plan. We're on the high end, and we do it purposely, right? The service we deliver is exceptional. That's like a staple of our business is fast communication and all that. And so we feel very justified in charging high rates. So when we look at, okay, how many new clients is it going to take? 1, to break even, and then 2, to be profitable. So when you start looking at that, right? And then, okay, how many referrals are you going to get? Right? If you get a new client, how many new clients give you referrals to their friends and family? Right? So those kind of things kind of factor in a little bit when making a decision. Okay, is a postcard campaign worth it? Right? So I don't know what are your rates?
So after seeing your rates, I was at the low end, realizing what you guys were charging. And I was like, hold on a second. So I raised my rates, and now I'm at an individual, I think it was like 3,500 or 4,000. And then either 5,500 or 6,000 for a joint. If I tell you what I was charging before, you'd fall off your chair. So with that being said, the first day I'm like, I put out a new fee sheet to like my staff, and I'm like, okay, guys, these are the new rates. And they're like, all right. And I'm like, this is it. So I went to my first consult, and I'm like, F it. Like, I'm gonna do it. And the people didn't even bat an eye. Okay.
Nope.
It was like a husband and a wife and a brother, and they all needed to do trust. And I left there, and I think I ended up like, kind of giving them a little bit of a discount. I think it was like $8,000 or $9,000. And I'm like, I would have charged probably half before.
Yep.
And these people did not care, and
You know
like,
what they would, you know what they would have cared is if you quoted them 1,500. They would have been like, this is a red flag.
it was wild. That's when I was like, okay, Joe, can we have a 1-to-1? Because clearly, something's got to give, because you always think like, and I don't know if you think like this, but I'm like, man, I don't want to be the most expensive because, then I'll miss out on the business and whatever. And then I'm like reading your stuff and you're like, okay, no, like be the most expensive because then, so I've been implementing those little things and I'm like, okay, well, it's working, but still when you look at the numbers on the Postcard Mania, I'm like, all right, so I asked Kat, which is I guess your rep, I'm like, okay, what did they start off with? Because I'm not a 10,000 a month person right now. I mean, how do I, can I ramp up to that? And so, but I told her, I said, please be honest with me, because if I'm giving you too small of a number, I don't want to come back here in 6 months and say it didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. So that was one thing that I was going to ask you. Like initially she told me that I think you guys were at 6,000 a month. And so
I think we started with 6. I think it could be 4, but I think it was 6.
okay.
It was also business law too. So we were mailing to businesses, which is a lot more difficult than mailing to single family homes, because you get a postcard, the receptionist gets the postcard. It's like, do they even deliver it?
Yeah.
They could just toss it in the trash. But when you mail to a house, the owner usually is the one who's grabbing it out of the mailbox.
Right.
Right. And so they at least get their eyes on it for, even if it's a split second, right? Maybe they toss it in the trash. Maybe they put it in their drawer, put it on the fridge. But then the next month they get the same exact card, right? Maybe they toss it in the trash, but then another month they get the same exact card, right? It's like you start to become a brand in their eyes, and it builds credibility when you're consistent. But yeah, quantities definitely. I would not suggest starting with anything less than 6,000 and committing for at least 6 months. Yeah, I would not suggest anything less than that.
Okay, so I'll go back to her because I think the last thing that she sent me was for 5,000, and so I don't want to do it. Like I don't want to fail. Like I want to. I've tried several things, and those things haven't panned out, and so I'm trying to reallocate my marketing to things that people are actually successful with, and so that's that.
Yeah, don't do 5,000. I mean, don't purchase in 5,000 increments. The reason being is because their printer prints in 6,000 increments. So the price that you'll pay if you buy 5,000 postcards, it'll only be very slightly less than if you pay for 6,000, because they're printing 6,000 no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah. So you either purchase 6,000, 12,000, 24,000.
Now I'm just curious. Let me see what her quote was, because I'm like, wait, what?
Now your budget, because you're going to pay postage, right? So your budget may be like, hey, I can only pay for 8,000 cards a month. That's different, right? I'm talking about the actual print expenditure, because you'll pay.
So what she sent me was 20,000, I guess, in printing. So 20,000 postcards. But what you're saying, it'd be better to do 24, right?
Yeah. Tell her you want to quote for 24. And it's not going to be much more.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. You see, like these conversations, that's why, I feel like I used to be super shy about reaching out to people, and I'm like, why? Like most people want to help you, so.
Yeah.
How do you get past the salesy feeling of things? Like at this point, you're not the salesperson, but
I've trained them all. I've definitely trained them all. But real quick, I want to go back to the marketing before we get into the sales stuff. you're really going to need to evaluate your marketing success, at least initially, on your revenue. Okay. Now you are going to have to be good at sales, but your revenue is really key. And what I mean by this is you could do a postcard campaign. Someone gets it, they stick it in a drawer. A week later, they go online, they search your name or they search your firm or whatever. They find you, they call you up, your receptionist says, they call the number on your website or Google, whatever. Receptionist is like, how'd you hear about us? And they say, well, I Googled you. And then you're like, so in your mind, you're now thinking this person found me through Google. They just did a search. Maybe they saw my Google business page when in fact, they actually got a postcard, right? And that'll happen a lot where people, they even get confused on how they found you. So marketing is really, it's an outflow game. It's like how much outflow of communication can you do? And postcards are a communication, right? You're delivering your communication, you're delivering your pitch to the person receiving it. Same thing with a Google ad, right? It's a communication that you're putting out there, right? A networking event, it's communication. All of these marketing things, the TikToks, all these things are outflowing communication. And the more that you do that, the more revenue is going to come in, right? Anytime that we have like a down week, or especially like a big down week, it's like, shit, revenue was like really low this last week. That's when I'm cranking up. I'm spending more on marketing, right? I'm saying, hey, we need to make more phone calls. We just need to up. But to get back to really at your stage right now, you really just need to monitor the revenue. Where we are, we have a lot of systems in place. We use Zoho. We track. We have thousands of call tracking numbers out there. We have, our ads are all linked up with our CRM, so we can really. But it took us a while to get there, and it was very expensive, very costly to get there. But at first, what we did was just, okay, what's happening with the revenue? So really, I would say use that as your guiding light on. It's like, okay, if you're doing 10 TikToks a week and you're sending 6,000 postcards and you're sending 4,000 emails and your income goes up, well, next week, you better do all those same things, right? Don't drop any of them out. Keep doing those same things. Maybe find something else that you can add to it, but you better not drop out those things. Make sense?
And so what other forms of marketing do you do? So I know you do the postcards, you do the Google ads. What else do you guys do?
Yeah. So the way our marketing line works is Ashley films a TikTok. We export that video to all the social channels. We export it to YouTube specifically. And from there, we download the transcripts of the YouTube video and we plug it into ChatGPT and we say, give us a blog. And so it's just taken the video content and it puts it in just written blog format. We side check it, make sure it's, it doesn't put out some weird stuff. And then we post it onto our website. So that helps out with SEO, especially. We then take the YouTube video and embed it into an email inside of, we were using MailChimp, but we use Zoho now, but we embed it into an email and we email it out to our database. I think we have like 18,000 people in our database, but maybe like 10,000 of them are still subscribed. So we send that 4 times a week. So 4 video, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, our 10,000. So we're sending out about 40,000 emails a week with informational content. right? It's just a TikTok video. It's like, how do you create a last will and testament, or what is a ladybird deed? Just helpful information, not salesy at all. um, and so that's like massive amounts of communication. Even if these people don't open up the email, they're still seeing your name, right? And they could be past clients who have got a plan from you 2 years ago, and they see your name in the inbox, and then they have dinner with their friends later that night, and the subject of estate planning comes up, and now you're top of mind, right? They remember that you're the one that did it because they constantly see your name. So that's back to the repetition and consistency,
And so
hitting.
do you do that yourself though? Do you have an employee in your office that does that? And I guess when you
Yeah.
were at my stage, how did you like the transition, right?
Yeah. Good question. So yes, we have an employee that does that, to answer your question, for us. She's our personal assistant part-time and does this part-time. That's another thing we can talk about, personal assistants. But anyway, but before having someone do it for us, I did it. Yeah. When I first joined, it was just Ashley and myself, and I did the marketing. I did all the administrative stuff, marketing, the outbound phone calls, finance, website, uh, you know, everything related, planning, future planning, writing programs for things that need to be done. All that I did while she was focusing on the consultations and the legal work. And we were speaking with an attorney today at an event that we've known her for a while, and she's curious about joining with us, or in a capacity. Right now she's working for a law firm, but she's also doing work on the side,
Mm-hmm.
and the work on the side is paying a lot more than her salary at the law firm, and it just keeps growing, but it's just her doing it. And I said, do you have any support? And she's like, no. And I just was like thinking, like, there's no way, there's zero chance Ashley would have been able to grow. We would have been able to grow the practice if I hadn't been there. And that's not to like toot my horn, but I say that from a perspective of like, you need at least two people, right? One handling that side and the other handling the legal.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. When you try and like, for me, it was like, I would come in at the beginning of the day, I'd write out my list of everything I need to do. And by the end of the day, oftentimes it was like I got through a quarter of it and my head would be spinning. And so imagine doing the legal work, doing the consultations,
No,
and
there's no way.
it's just, you can't do it. That's why a lot of these attorneys burn out, and they're like, this sucks. And they actually don't want business, right? Maybe they might not even be being paid a lot, right? They might not have that much, but there's so much to do in running a business and the legal or the production and the administrative, that they're just like, fuck this. Like, yeah. So I don't know if you have someone like me. Do you?
I mean, we have staff. We have like, it's not just me, it's me and my partner. And then we have 2 associates. We have a paralegal, an assistant, another assistant, and a billing person. So we have people, but I'm trying to figure out how to do the marketing side of things. Right.
Yeah.
Before it was just me and him, and that was freaking crazy. Like there's no way, like me doing the billing, me doing the, the QuickBooks, the reconciliation, talking to the accountant. That's not working. And then I have the marketing person, like the social media person. She does all the management of the social media side of things. But I was curious to see, how.
But I heard you just say basically legal staff to me just
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. That's all I have is legal staff and billing.
No good.
And so I need to get like,
someone has to do the administrative side. Yeah, absolutely. Someone has to be in charge of, whether it's you or somebody else, right? It's fine if it's you, right? If you're in charge of the marketing and the sales, great. Let them do the legal work.
So that's my goal. My goal is to be the person that is bringing in the business and then not necessarily doing the work. So there's a lot of things now that I just bring in and I give to one of the associates, right? So if I bring in a family law case, I just hand them the file and you guys take it from here, you know? But it's a lot when I'm, you know, the estate planning side of things, I'm still the attorney. So I'm the attorney and
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. And once you start doing a lot of consultations, right, then it's just like you just can't do it.
yeah. So I guess that kind of segues into my question, and I guess we're going to kind of veer off a little bit maybe of marketing. But
Yeah.
so does Ashley do, like, what is your process in terms of initial phone call? That person gets screened, and at what point do they either get to Ashley or do they get to an attorney in your office that does the actual legal consult and does the quoting?
And does the what?
The quoting, like
Yeah.
quoting them the fees, or does your, you know, assistant or whoever answers the call give the fees up front? Like, how does that work logistically?
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a receptionist and we have 3 intake girls. The intake girls. So a call comes in, receptionist grabs basic contact info, name, phone, email, transfers it over to intake. Intake finds out what kind of service they need, and then does the screening based off of that. And then they do not give pricing, not yet. We can talk about that in a minute. We're kind of looking at possibly changing some things up. But they do not give pricing, and they're instructed not to. They say, hey, during your consultation, they'll go over with you the fee. So what they do is, if they're qualified for our services, they then book them on a consultation with Ashley or with our non-attorney salespeople. So we have 2 attorneys. We have Ashley and we have Kelsey. They can both do consults. Kelsey mostly does not do a lot of consults. She's mostly in the reviewing of the legal work. That's really what she's doing. Our paralegals and legal assistants are doing the legal work, and then she's reviewing it, making sure everything's all good. So that's mostly what's happening with Kelsey. But we have 2 other employees. One is her name's Stephanie. She is been in the legal field for like 20 years or something like that. She's amazing. She knows probate like nobody's business. And so she'll get the information. Intake will book consults with her. And she's very clear with them that she's not an attorney and that she's not giving legal advice. She does not give legal advice. It's basically just like looking at the facts of the matter for the probate. And it's like, okay, you're going to need either a summary probate or a formal probate. And here's our fee for it. We charge X amount. I can take a check or a credit card. And then she's creating the invoice. Now, this has all been outlined by Ashley. Like, okay, you can say these things, you can't say these things. This is what we charge in this situation. This is what we charge in that situation. So it has all been directed by her as the managing attorney. And the same thing goes with Medicaid. We have another employee, Adelina, who's 20 years in Medicaid planning, and the process is essentially the same. So, yeah. And so they give the quote. They can collect payment right then and there with the person. If they do not sign up, what happens is they mark in the system that the consult was completed, and they gave them a quote. And then by marking it as a quote, that the quote was given, It's then automatically routed over to our intake girl, whoever did the intake. She then has a follow-up schedule to call, text, email, resend quotes, to follow up with them. And it's a lot, right? We call 1 day after, 2 days after. You saw it?
I saw your, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. But you know what? A lot of people don't answer the phone. And so they appreciate the follow-up, because like I'm sitting here with you, and somebody calls me, right? We were car shopping recently, right? If one of the salespeople calls me, like, I'm not answering the call. Am I calling him back? Right? Even if he leaves a message, right? I'm not calling him back. But if he
Right.
calls me tomorrow while I'm sitting here looking at Facebook, maybe I take the call. And I'm not unique in that. A lot of other people, it's like they can't answer the phone for whatever reason, or they don't want to. But if you continuously follow up, maybe you'll catch them when they can. Yeah. And so then they are essentially the intake person. Once they get connected with them, they're trying to get them to start. Yeah. So that's the process. Any question on that?
No, I mean, it's interesting. I need to look at my process too, because I have the legal staff, but I'm missing, I think, that middle, the intake, and then the follow-up back from the same intake person. I think
Yeah.
and I know I have a lot of missed opportunities, because there's so many people that consult with me, 15-minute, complimentary consultation or whatever. And then we lose them because we don't follow up. And so that's something that I need to work on.
Yeah. Look, people have a difficult time making decisions. They have a very difficult time making decisions. And some people, it just takes a little while for them to either be talked through it or whatever. And so that initial consult, maybe you don't close them on the sale, and they're just the type of person that can't make a decision right away. And, I feel sorry for them, because that's a terrible way to live, to constantly ponder shit all the time.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so the follow-up is to essentially help them with that.
So at what point, and I think you said this in one of your videos, and I remember thinking, man, that was quick. Like the transition from one revenue bracket to the next revenue, and then now. So how long really was it? Was it a year, 2 years, 3 years, to the point that you have 3 intake, assistants, and they,
Yeah. We I was the first one. I was doing it just myself. And then that was
like from a
December.
revenue perspective though, like
Oh,
your first year you did this much revenue, like ramping it up. Because I think at one point you said that last year you guys were at 2 million or something, and then
we're
this
at
year you're
one. Yeah.
tracking to 4 million, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it was last year, this time last year, we increased prices. We increased our legal fees. That made a huge difference. We hired another intake person. So it was myself and 2 intake girls doing follow-ups. I was mostly following up with the higher priced ones. And then we added Medicaid planning back in April. That was big. That was very big for us. That brought in a lot of revenue.
So you just brought that in April of 2024.
Yeah. It's a gold mine.
I've done the training. I've had a few, but I haven't had a lot of success there. And so what do you do in terms of marketing for Medicaid planning? Is it different than what you do?
Yeah, it's Google Ads. So estate planning, the only marketing we do for estate planning is the postcards. I probably want to change that. We're going to be reworking some of our systems here in the new year. But for probate and for Medicaid, we do Google ads. We don't send any postcards for them. I've kicked around sending postcards for Medicaid, but you really never really know when someone needs Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they could be 80 years old and healthy as a horse, and they just don't need it. Whereas estate planning, it's like, okay, almost anyone that has any bit of assets really should do it,
Right.
so that's much easier to market to. So it's all Google ads with probate and Medicaid. The problem with Medicaid marketing is that you get a lot of people who are looking for Medicaid insurance.
Right.
Yeah, a lot. And so our phone rings nonstop all day long. It's just constantly ringing. And we occasionally it rings to the receptionist for 10 seconds. If she doesn't answer it, it rings to 5 people for another 15 seconds. If it doesn't get answered, then it goes to I think it's 8 people for another 20 seconds. And then it goes to voicemail. And so we have a lot of people that can answer the phone, and we still have calls that go to voicemail. It drives me fucking crazy, but we still do. And that's how much the phone is ringing. And so we're spending a lot. We're spending like 40 grand a month on Google ads. And so with Medicaid specifically, there's going to be a lot of junk in there, a lot of junk calls, because they're just some homeless person looking for Medicaid, right? Or whatever. And they don't really need long-term care. That's not what they're looking for, to be able to go to a doctor. And we're not doing that. So if we didn't have the system and the manpower that we do right now, we would just waste a lot of money with our ad spend, because we wouldn't be able to field the number of calls and filter them. We would miss out on people. And the same goes for probate, but at a lesser extent. We do get a decent amount of my mom left me out of the will and I should have been in it. It's like, okay, we're not dealing with that.
Yeah.
No, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. So yeah, I forget what your question was, but did I answer it?
So I mean, yes, and you also elaborated on the fact of what areas you do which marketing for, which is cool, because I hadn't even thought about that. So to hone in on the postcards really just for estate planning and Medicaid. And so I asked you, how you market for Medicaid planning, because I've added it and I haven't been able to get successful in that area. And I know it's a big money market, money maker.
Yeah.
But,
it's such a good service. It's not only, you not only can charge a lot for it, but it's such a good service. It's not a ton of work on your end. I mean, you probably need some assistants that do some of the calls. Some of the calls can take several hours, like waiting on hold, which is a pain.
You have one person working on your Medicaid.
And she has an assistant as well.
Okay. So
yeah. And they're slammed. They're slammed. We're going to need to get some more help here in the near future. The goal is to really build that practice area out. But yeah, you can charge a lot, and you're like the amount of help that you're delivering to somebody. It's like they have hundreds of thousands of assets, and the nursing home's going to take it all. It's like, fuck, it's terrible. Or you can legally work around it and they can keep their money. Yeah. So charging 1 month's worth of care is not like, and a lot of times these people have already spent numerous months already out of their own pocket, and we're going to get that money back for them or get them reimbursed. So it's like, okay, you're going to pay us a month's worth of care. It's like a no-brainer.
So in April, you add this practice area and you hire a Medicaid person, like an assistant.
Yeah.
And then you just started marketing, and then that was it. That's
Yeah.
pretty ballsy. Like,
I know when we hired her, we offered her a salary, and then she came back and she wanted a little bit more. And uh, payroll is the highest. Well, our marketing is a high expense, but I look at marketing as more of an investment. But payroll is a fucking killer. And at the time, it was like, okay, we're gonna, and we just, it's like we
you
got
just
to do it.
waited.
Yeah, it was like we had decided that year that we were gonna start this practice area at the beginning of the year. Ashley and I, set out all of our goals, and it was like we're gonna do it. And then she came across our lines, and we couldn't let it go. We couldn't let her go, and yeah, we just had to make it work. We just had to. And then instantly, I think it was within I think she had given like 3 weeks notice or something to her previous employer. And while she was, during those 3 weeks, we got a random Medicaid in, paid like, I think like 10 grand or something like that. And it was like instantly like, all right, it was a little bit of like, okay, we're not paying her 10 grand a week. We're not paying her, it's like, we're good. We're good. We're going to be good. And yeah, if you market aggressively enough, you market properly, you have the right landing pages, all of that, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine.
Got it. Okay.
And I think that's where it comes down to putting the percentage aside. When you start
The marketing percentage.
Yeah, you start allocating, okay, this amount is going to marketing, and you have a separate bank account for that. You don't mix it up with your other accounts, separate bank account for it. And it builds pretty quickly. And then you make more money.
You do profit first then? Because you're saying separate bank accounts. Okay.
Yeah. Do you?
No, I don't. That's been on my list of things that I need to read. It's like a lot of shit that you need to like figure out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's why you need someone like me, right? Ashley didn't read it. I read it over a weekend, and then I said, okay, this is what we're doing. She's like, okay. And
yeah. I need that, except too bad my husband is in law enforcement. He has no desire to come with me, he's like, ah. But all right. So we talked marketing budget, how long, let me see, lead tracker. So you say that you use Zoho. I'm doing Clio right now, and it's a shit show. It's just not giving me the information. Like I said, okay, can you call them and find out if there's a way that, we move it from this bucket to this bucket, and then it automatically tells you to follow up on this day, right? It doesn't do that. I'm like, this is just crap. So I'm trying. It seems like it's a little overwhelming, and everything that I'm listening to and that I want to do to get it done. So you do Zoho.
yeah.
And so what did you use before then?
We use Cloze, CLOZE.
Okay.
Yeah, when I worked at Postcard Mania, they had built out their own software, and the sales reps would come in the day. They'd have their whole list of all the calls that they need to make for that day, and you just run through it. You just click on the phone number, headset connects to the computer, like super quick. And that was what I wanted. So when I left Postcard Mania, I was like, okay, they had built theirs, so there's no way I could use theirs because it was custom built. So I was like, okay, I'll get Salesforce. Salesforce is going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Got Salesforce, super expensive. It was like $1,500 per user for the year. And at that time, we didn't have any money. I paid this guy to build out what I wanted him. I was essentially telling him, okay, I want the sales follow-up mostly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And other integrations. It was like 15 grand. And it came back and it was terrible. It didn't work. It was just like, so we used Salesforce for a year, and it was just a constant headache. Then, so during this time, as is a constant headache, I'm looking into the other softwares, Clio and we actually started with Practice Panther. Ashley started with Practice
Okay.
Panther. And so when I came and I started trying to use Practice Panther, I'm like, have you know much about it? You know
No,
what
I
it
did
is?
like a demo.
Yeah.
I think I did a demo with it initially. I did Clio, I did my case, and I think I did Practice Prep, but it's been years.
Yeah. It's probably similar to my, the other things. Um, it didn't integrate with our phone system, didn't integrate with the emails. I had no idea how to really track who I was calling. I was like, what the hell am I doing? Because I don't know what to do. I might call John Smith on Monday, call 40 other people, and then on Tuesday, like, hey, did I call John Smith? And I call him again and I sound like an asshole.
Right.
So then after we finished up with Salesforce, we went to Close. Close is kind of built for I think it's for realtors. It integrates with the phone system as well as emails. So all of the emails automatically get put into the person's case. Phone calls are logged. You can put in notes, I think text messages as well. That was really good, but it didn't give the follow up, right? I think you could schedule calls. You could like put a reminder for yourself to call. It was all it all had to be manually done. So this whole call cadence that we've talked about, after the
Right.
quote, we were keeping that in a spreadsheet. So I created a spreadsheet that had like all these formulas. Like, so as soon as a consult would be booked, we put their name in there, put the date of the consult, and then that would automatically like import all of the follow-up dates. And so then the intake person would need to go in, see, like, scroll, what day are we on? It was okay. It was pretty bad, but not terrible. A lot of calls were still like forgotten about, and then people were called when they shouldn't have been called. Right? There's been numerous times like someone purchased an estate plan from us, and they weren't marked off in the spreadsheet that they had purchased the plan. And so we call them up like, hey, any update on getting your estate plan? They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I signed my papers last week. Like, and so, yeah, you have to kind of navigate that, kind of brush it off and, oh, sorry. But yeah, and then I found Zoho, and I spoke with a developer, and his name's Mike. And I said, hey, this is what I want. And he's like, yeah, we can do it. It's going to cost a lot, but we can do it. And yeah, we did it. And we still constantly tweak things. We still pay him. Yeah, he only works a few hours a month for us. I seem to go over those hours and he bills me more, but yeah, he's been fantastic. It's an unbelievable system. It takes a lot of build out.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I need to figure something out because of the follow-ups, right? And tracking all of that.
Yeah. I mean, even if you start out with spreadsheets, like it has its downfalls, like I just said, right? It's all manual and all that shit. But these other softwares, Clio, and they're not looking at it from a sales perspective. It's like, okay, it's mostly like practice management, which is
right. So Clio has Clio Manage and Clio Grow. And so I do subscribe to the Grow aspect of it. So it does give you like leads, pipeline, where it's at in your pipeline and stuff. And I use that, but it doesn't have the next function of when to follow up. Like if you can give it a reminder to follow up in day 5, day 7, day 10, you know what I mean? At the outset, that would be great. But
they said you contacted them and they said they can't do it.
They said no, but what they do, which is cool, is that they take down what you want and then they kind of put it into like their developers to see if enough people have requested it, and eventually it may come out into that. So I mean, what I have now, it works, but it's not ideal. But I don't know if I'm ready to do an endeavor of like a whole build out. It sounds like a lot.
It's an endeavor.
Yeah. Man, I think we're getting to the 1 hour, and I'd like to be super respectful of people's time. So, with
You're all
that,
good. Yeah.
my last question is, how do you get your staff to not sound so salesy, right? Because I saw a lot of people commenting on the Facebook when you posted that PDF. And so, how do you get around that? I mean, I saw your response there, but you know.
Yeah, it's Are you talking about the follow up or
Yeah.
the yeah? I mean, we drill every morning, right? We drill that specific scenario of them calling and saying, "Hey, any update on getting your estate plan started?" And then the other person is like, give some objection. Oh, I need to think about it, or it's too much, or whatever. And getting comfortable with the replies and making it your own is really crucial. Because it's not verbatim. We're not doing these objection handlings aren't verbatim. It's they're suggestions, but they're not verbatim. And yeah, you have to have a human element to it. And I've hired these girls. Well, two of our recent hires didn't have any sales experience, none. And I interviewed them, and I just had a conversation with them, over video. That was the interview, and we just talked about their life and my life, and just fucking talked.
General.
Yeah, and I've done that with numerous employees here, not just the sales ones, and I value good communication more than anything. If someone can communicate with me effectively and they're sharp and there's not these long like lags, and like you ask them a question, they're just like
Yeah.
there's none of that. It's like they're sharp, right? um I know that they're capable of being very good. And so two of the new girls that we have, that's why I hired them, because I felt like, hey, and I'll tell you what, I interviewed for that position. I probably interviewed 20 people each time, so 40 people total. And there's some duds out there. There's some people like, I can't. No wonder you don't have a job, right? You talk like that. Like, are you you just smoke some opium or something before our meeting? And so when you find someone who really can communicate effectively and clearly, and they're sharp and they're quick-witted, you got someone there, right?
Gotcha. Do you give them like any type of incentives for how many deals they close per se?
Yeah,
Uh,
you really can't.
right.
So yeah, you really can't. So they're paid an hourly. Now we give we're going to be giving we're reworking some things, but so what it's going to be at the start of the year is they're going to get a small bonus for booking qualified consults, qualified prospects. um, Pretty small, but they book a lot of them, so that bonus will go up be pretty good. They're averaging about 25 to 30 bookings each per week. So we're going to bonus them. I think it's about $5 each. So that'll be a decent bonus, right? And then we're kicking around when they onboard a client, giving them a bonus for onboarding a client or a new
Right.
prospect.
And that has to be like a set amount too,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah. So it'll be a fixed amount. And so they follow up with someone, they pay for their estate plan with them. They then onboard them, and we're working out what onboarding means. Right? It's not going to be anything crazy, but it's probably going to be pretty basic. But then we can pay them a bonus for that on doing that task.
Right. So opening the file or whatever the case may be,
Yeah. Yeah.
once they've retained type of thing, then
Right. Yeah. Because you wouldn't onboard a prospect, you would onboard someone that paid with you.
right. So onboard and then schedule consults. That's interesting. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot of information. I really appreciate it, and again, the fact that, you guys have gone out there and really just exposed, because a lot of times there's so many gatekeepers out there that, they don't want to say the secret to their success. And man, there's enough room for all of us, to be successful. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. Well, that's what Joy did from Postcard Mania. But when she started Postcard Mania, it was secrets were held very tight in the marketing industry. And she said, screw this. And she gave it all away. She taught all over her website. You can find how to do anything with marketing, right? It's all there. And then when we met with Michelangelo, he did the same thing. And he's booming. He said he's met with tons of attorneys just like us, tons of firms like us, and just giving them information. And so I'm looking at it like, okay, we need to do the same thing, right? The more that you give away, the more that things come back to you. And so you could kind of say that we're giving out all of this as much as we can for selfish purposes. But it kind of is and it isn't. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. Like, hey, this is what we're doing.
Why do you say selfish purposes? What are you getting from it?
We're going to get more business just by giving away how we do things. Just by having this.
Well, I mean, I totally see it, right? I totally see it. Like if I have somebody in your area or whatever, then
But I don't even know if it's that. I don't even
are you doing like the BNI mantra of givers gain?
Maybe I don't know. It's just it's weird in the sense like that you give away as much information as you can, and then it just comes back to you. Not necessarily from getting a referral from you. Sure, you want to send us a referral? Awesome, right? Well, I'll take it. But I don't know if it's like a universe thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I've seen it with other people, and I'm seeing it with us now. And like, we're starting up the whole non-stuffy attorney thing, right? Like we're building that brand. And so, yeah, like it just all comes back. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why I say it's for selfish reasons. But in the same sense, it's like, I do want, there's plenty of fish out there for us all to catch, right? There's no shortage of prospects. So it's like, I can't, even if there's an attorney down the road that does estate planning and Medicaid and all that, I tell them how to do their business. I tell them what's successful and they implement it. They're not going to take business from us.
Right.
It's not going to happen. If anything, they're going to do their job better where it brings more goodwill, right? And the public perceives attorneys and law firms in a better light. Because right now, attorneys and law firms, they have that stuffy, conceited viewpoint, right? People, that's how they view attorneys. And you don't really, the public doesn't really know if you're good or not, or if they like you until they actually meet you. They don't really know what you're about until they meet you. That's why social media is helpful, right? Being yourself on there, they can like get a taste of who you are before they even meet you. And that's why we're like we're building the Non-Stuffy Attorney brand and looking to like license that to attorneys, because we've gotten a ton of business. We're non-stuffy, right? I'm here wearing a t-shirt today. But the amount of business we've gotten because prospects see, they go to our website, okay, these are the non-stuffy attorneys. That's the type of attorney that these guys want. People want a non-stuffy attorney. It's all over Google reviews. It's like super apparent. But if they go to John Smith's website, maybe John Smith is just like this. Maybe he is non-stuffy and maybe he's super cool and down to earth and he's an awesome attorney, but they go to his website and they just see John Smith Associates and they don't know anything about him until they sit in front of him in that consult. But how many people is he missing out on, you know, that he could be saying, hey, I'm a non-stuffy attorney, for example, or whatever. He could do some other branding. Like there's this guy in San Diego I met with last week, and they're the lawyer in blue jeans. That's his tagline. He said they get tons of business because of it. And it's like, that's perfect. So anyway,
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was just visiting my daughter in Milwaukee, and there's a lawyer that has these huge billboards, and he's the beard guy, and literally his logo is like his cartoon face with like a giant beard. I'm like, dude, that's hilarious. Like, but I'll remember him, because he's super.
You'll remember him. And the people, I read hundreds of Google reviews, and they all wanted attorneys that were, all the 5 stars were for people who are down to earth and relatable. That's what they want. They don't want the stuck up tie and people who are looking down upon them. But that's the perception of what attorneys are. So this guy with the beard up there, it's like this guy's driving home in a pickup truck, and he sees that, and he's like, I'm going to him. I'm not going to the fucking dude that's in the suit that's going to tell me I'm an idiot.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But
yeah.
Anyway, well,
yeah, it's fun meeting with you.
Yes, it's been awesome. I really, really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be in touch, and I'll ask you any other questions, any follow-up questions. I'll reach out.
Yeah, reach out to me.
I'm gonna take your advice. I'm gonna email them right now and be like, no, give me a quote for 24,000. I won't reveal my source.
you can tell them what I said. That's okay. I don't care.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully I'll be able to meet your wife at some point.
Yeah. All right, Martha.